Well, thank you for joining this presentation. And a bit about my background. I mean, obviously, I love water. And I've been able to develop through research as a hydrotherapy author and educator, and also I invent hydrotherapy equipment. And I've also been able to travel around the world researching hydrotherapy in many different countries and settings. And based upon that, I was able to write the book Formulated Publishing on Hydrotherapy for Health and Wellness, which contains a lot of principles from the past, traditional, as well as modern principles of hydrotherapy. And also, I'm developing a hydrotherapy, holistic hydrotherapy education online, where I'll be offering a variety of programs online for CEU credits in the field of hydrotherapy. Now, today's talk or presentation is on optimal individual daily hydration programs, or a personalized daily hydration program. And the question is, do we have enough knowledge today about the scientific and principles of hydration to create a program like this for potentially our clients and also ourselves? And to create a program like this, we have to be able to understand these basic daily hydration principles. Now, one is, of course, the amount of water that an individual loses each day. And then the correlate of that is the amount of water intake needed to balance the water loss. Another fundamental principle is the timing and the amount of water loss throughout the day. And another principle is the source and quality of plain water, beverages, and food used for water take each day. And here plain water just means water, just plain water, basically, from different sources. And then the other key principle is the ratio of plain water to beverages intake each day. And if we can understand these four key areas, then it is possible to create an individual hydration program. So we'll go through these principles briefly and see what type of program can be created. Now, in my book, I talk about everybody has basically these same categories of wellness principles, daily wellness. We want to feel good every day. Every appearance and beauty. Everybody wants to look healthy, look beautiful. Fitness. And everybody wants healthy aging. Prevention. People want to prevent disease so it never happens. Enhancement. Basically, everybody has some goals to enhance their spiritual development, their physical, mental development, their connection with nature. And then people want to minimize the symptoms from health problems. Rehabilitation is a key wellness goal. Virtually everybody's had some sort of injury or situation where rehabilitation has been necessary. And then there's the whole range of major medical health problems that are a wellness goal that need to be taken care of. Now, when we look on the right side, we see that normal daily hydration is fundamental for everyone, basically, to attain and maintain all of these goals. So to have optimal normal hydration is actually a fundamental principle of wellness to allow individuals to, once again, attain and maintain all these goals. And this contrasts with dehydration and the effects of dehydration, which we'll go over briefly, which on the other side of the equation inhibits or actually produces wellness problems, which disallow people to enjoy the full potential of their holistic wellness. So now we take a bigger picture, and this actually is a very beautiful photo of the Earth. And we put hydration into the context of water on our planet and our relationship to water. And we see the well-known principle that water covers 70% of the Earth's surface in the form of water and ice, and actually water covers 100% of the Earth's surface in the form of water vapor, the humidity in the air. So actually, this hydrosphere, which is one body of water, and it's the same amount basically, it's been there for 4 billion years, and it's continually goes through this dynamic hydrologic cycle of evaporation, purification, circulation, delivery to water on all the various places on Earth. And we see in the next slide that human beings are actually an element of the hydrosphere. We're a natural system just like any other natural system. We're a cellular system. And water is a very important part of our physiology. In fact, it's one of the key elements of our physiology. The human body is 60% water, which represents 10 gallons or 84 pounds in somebody that weighs approximately 140 pounds. So water, this relationship that we have with water is very complex, and it forms the basis of hydrotherapy. And it's very specific in terms of our understanding of why hydration, normal daily hydration, is so essential for health and wellness. And of course, then this gives us an insight that an individual optimal daily hydration program could be very valuable for any individual. Now, in this photo from the book, we see Megan, and behind her is 10 gallons of water. And if somebody weighed 140 pounds, they would have 10 gallons of water approximately inside. And the yellow container is actually 3 gallons of triglyceride, which is fat. And actually, triglycerides in our body are also in a liquid form. So our body is actually really 80% liquid, 60% water, and 20% lipids. But then the question is, where is that water in the human body, and what is it doing? So we'll review that. Now, I showed this slide because this is actually the best source of all the scientific research on the principles of hydration. This was created by the Institute of Medicine for the National Academy of Sciences in 2005. And this is the Institute of Medicine. They set all the daily requirements for, like you see, potassium, sodium, chloride, sulfur, vitamins, minerals. So they did a study to determine the daily requirement for water. And in this study are all the key principles, or all the key research papers, references to them on hydration. And it's an excellent source for anybody wanting to research the principles of hydration. And it's online, free. so that anybody can actually read this at any time. But a lot of the research and principles in the study that I did and in the chapter 4 in the book, in my book, which is on the principles of hydration, is based on research taken from this. So now we'll look at these optimal, or these daily hydration principles, and see if we know enough about them to create a program. And the first one is the amount of individual daily water loss. And what we find is that, let me just check the next slide. So basically the amount of daily water loss, can we understand that, and then can we understand the amount of water intake each day for each individual? So, and what we find is through scientific research studies, we have a scientific understanding of how much water the body loses each day. And using precise measurements, scientific studies have determined that each day, on average, a person naturally loses about 2.5 quarts of water. And this is per amount. This is based on generally a person weighing about 140 pounds. And naturally, the amount of daily water loss is relative to body size. A smaller person will, on average, lose less water than a larger person. And we'll look at that in a minute. And this is a key thing. During exercise or being in a hot environment, a person can lose more than 1 quart of water per hour through sweating. So that has to be factored into this consideration. Now, the amount of water intake each day needed to balance the water loss. So each day we must replace the total amount of water that our body loses in order to maintain balanced hydration. And any excess intake above the amount to maintain the body's normal fluid level will be eliminated in the form of urine. So the body doesn't store extra water. So we can't really overhydrate in a short period of time, because immediately that amount of water will be eliminated by the body. Now here we have a slide which just shows a very key principle in understanding and developing an individual hydration program. And that is, people of different size have different amounts of water. And this is for a normal weight person, based on that. So in other words, a person who weighs 120 pounds has 9 gallons of water, approximately. And a person who weighs 200 pounds has 200 gallons of water. 14 gallons of water. So the size is a key factor in understanding or developing a program for somebody, because somebody who weighs more is going to have more water loss during the day than somebody who is smaller. And here we see a graph which shows some principles that how the body gains water and how the body loses water naturally. We gain water through drinking water and beverages. 80% of our water intake each day is through water and beverages. 20% is contained in the food we eat in a normal diet. Now, how do we lose each water each day, which is approximately 2.5 quarts? We lose 1.5 quarts in the form of urine. We lose 0.2 quarts through the skin sweating, but that just happens automatically every day, not based on heat or being hot. And then we also lose another zero point 0.4 quarts through water just evaporating from the skin, not through sweating, but just through evaporation. And then we lose zero point 0.3 quarts through evaporation from the lungs, and 0.1 quart through the GI tract. So now, scientifically, we have a very clear picture of how the body loses water each day naturally, automatically, and how much relative to body size. And we also understand that replacing that water generally comes through drinking water and beverages, and then also 20% through food. So now based on more of this understanding, we look at the principle of the timing amount of water lost throughout the day. Now, we actually lose water on a continuum. There's an average loss of about 3.5 ounces or 110 milliliters each hour in the form of evaporation of water from the skin and lungs and the formation of urine. Now, during exercise or by being in a hot environment, as we mentioned, a person can lose more than 1 quart of water per hour. Now, having this understanding, we know that the timing of water intake throughout the day, there should be intake of water in the form of plain water, beverages, and food at regular intervals throughout the day, so that the normal level of hydration is always maintained. During exercise or by being in a hot environment, because we can lose more than 1 quart of water, that water needs to be replaced as close to the time that water is lost to prevent dehydration. Now, in the next slide, we will see a graphic that helps us understand this. Now, on top, the red line shows that throughout the day, it's a straight line. You can see it's just a continual, even loss of water naturally, even though we're not aware of it. This is happening automatically, of about 3.4 ounces of water every hour. Now, the spike there represents if we were to exercise and the sweating level increased to 1 quart per hour approximately, we would see a dramatic increase in water loss. And then it comes back down to the continuum of water loss throughout the day, which actually continues through the night, continually. Now, the graph below shows that in a balanced hydration program, that there would be a normal intake of water, in the form of beverages and food at various intervals throughout the day. And we see there that spike, which is close to the spike above for sweating, would indicate that we would need to replace the water from sweating, lost through sweating, very close to the time that the water is lost. And this understanding actually helps us. We are working with the client in developing a balanced hydration program because we can see throughout the day what their water intake is. There's, as you imagine, there's tremendous variety in the way people stay hydrated every day, just based upon the way they've developed, in their lifestyle water intake. And some people sometimes will go without eating or drinking for long periods of time, and this will indicate that they're going to develop a level of dehydration during that because they're losing water continually. So there has to be this continual intake of water at various times throughout the day. So in our next slide, now let's look a bit about the scientific understanding of dehydration, because normal hydration is basically something that is just normal, and we do it, and we don't really notice, we don't feel better necessarily, but by being dehydrated, we can see that there are various very real problems associated with dehydration. So just some of the research has been done shows that the human body is a very complex, dynamic, fluid cellular system, and it needs to be continually maintained. It needs to maintain these adequate levels of hydration. Now, scientific research has shown that dehydration levels of even 1% can produce decreased physical and mental performance. And it is possible that dehydration at levels of even less than 1% can place stress on the various fluid cellular systems of the body. And so the next part is scientific research shows that dehydration is correlated with the following problems. So dehydration results in decreased cognitive functioning at dehydration levels of 2% or greater, decreased ability to perform aerobic exercise tasks, compromised vascular, thermoregulatory, etc., heat strain, heat exhaustion, death, risk from urinary tract infections, kidney stones, colon cancer, and bladder cancer. Basically, scientific research, as well as just our own understanding, shows that dehydration can produce significant problems, and these can be correlated with very specific health problems and decrease in performance. And another interesting point is dehydration. This one says areas affected. Areas of the body affected by dehydration: muscles, skin, viscera, bones, brain, and liver. But scientific research has shown that as the body becomes dehydrated, the levels of dehydration are greater in some organs of the body than others. Now, muscles show the greatest dehydration at 40%, the skin at 30%, which is very important for estheticians in maintaining the wellness of the skin, the viscera at 14%, and the bones at 14%. Now, this is important as it shows that not all systems of the body, all systems of the body do not become equally dehydrated as dehydration develops. So, in our next slide, now another key daily hydration principle is the source and quality of the plain water, beverages, and food intake each day. And the insight that this gives us, understanding the different sources of our water intake in the form of water, beverages, and food, it allows us to decrease water intake from sources that may have harmful levels of chemicals and toxins, and which applies to drinking water as well as commercially prepared beverages, sodas, sports drinks, coffee drinks, and some foods. And another very important principle is that it can also decrease the unhealthy level of intake of calories, and this is mainly from beverages in the forms of sugars and fats. So by understanding all the different sources of intake of water, it's possible to help develop a program which can reduce the amount of intake at the same time of harmful substances or excess calories. And a very interesting understanding is that over 20 days, every individual is going to lose more than 100 pounds of water, and also intake more than 100 pounds of water, or 12 gallons, from the environment. This loss and replacement of water is a major portion of the intake from the environment of water, which is basically an essential nutrient. So how we're taking that water into our bodies has a big effect, a major effect on our wellness. We know that many, many, many people are taking in large amounts of poor quality sources like sodas and other drinks which are high in calories and high in poor quality substances in the manufacturing process. And the last key point is if you were actually working with somebody on a wellness program, you would want to know the ratio of plain water to beverages intake each day. And you'll find that many people have a balance, say 50% water, 50% beverages, or even a higher ratio of plain water. But many people are staying hydrated primarily by drinking beverages, which includes a wide range of beverages every day. So in a program to develop more optimal daily hydration, this ratio of plain water to beverages would be very important. Now, in this slide, this is actually from the program that's in book on hydrotherapy, in my book on hydrotherapy, in Chapter 4, and it gives a way to evaluate a person's daily hydration behavior. And just by understanding how much plain water they have intake throughout the day, and the amount of beverages, and also understanding the source of the beverages, the type of beverage, as well as the type of drinking water, gives a lot of information about that person's daily hydration behavior. And since water is basically, the amount of water from food is approximately 20%, that's just calculated automatically. But from something like this, you can get a very good idea of what the person's behavior is throughout the day for staying hydrated. And see below on the right-hand side, it says the goal of daily water intake for normal weight person of. So you can see we get a general goal of how much water intake a person should have if they weigh 130 pounds, 175 pounds, 200 pounds. And this gives you an ideal of approximate what a person should, the amount of water intake they should have each day. And then, based on this, it's possible to then make recommendations for the person to improve their daily hydration. And that can be in the form of more water intake, a better timing of water intake throughout the day, and a very important area is in the area of intake, the actual source of water that people have, that they're these sources each day in terms of beverages, plain water, and food. And recommendations can be made to improve the source of water intake, which can have a very significant impact on their daily wellness. So to basically now sort of summarize to a certain point, the original question, is it possible to create an optimal, personalized, individual daily hydration program based on the understanding we have today of hydration? And the answer basically is yes. Programs can be developed. So it's possible with the amount of water intake each day. It's possible to determine the average total intake of water daily and then make recommendations to increase or decrease water intake relative to the water intake goal. And based on a person's normal weight. Timing of water intake each day, determining the timing of water intake during the day, and making recommendations if there are periods of low water intake. The ratio of plain water to beverages intake each day. It's possible to determine the ratio of plain water to beverages intake each day, and then make recommendations to improve the ratio if necessary. And then once again, with the source and quality of plain water and beverages intake each day, it's possible to determine the source and quality of the plain water and beverages each day and make recommendations to decrease intake from sources that may have unhealthy levels of harmful chemicals and toxins that may be found in some drinking water and may be also found in many commercially prepared beverages. And to decrease the intake of unhealthy levels of intake of sugars and fats. Now, this is coming back to our earlier slide about the personal wellness goals of every individual. And it's very clear that having optimal or normal level of daily hydration is essential. It's correlated with being able to attain and to maintain all the health and wellness goals that we have. And now that there is a better understanding of all the principles of optimal daily hydration, it is possible to create programs that we as therapists can present to our clients to give them guidelines and recommendations to improve their daily hydration behavior. Because most patterns of, in fact, virtually all of our patterns of daily, the beverages and food and water we drink, we've learned over time. And we do it basically the same way every day. And being able to make changes, one, we have to understand what changes would be beneficial. And then a therapist, too, also acts as a coach. You can meet with your client, say, in a month and then go over their progress and then give them further advice and further encouragement. And this is very helpful because even when we know that something would be a better behavior in terms of hydration, we often just are used to doing things the way we've always done it, through learned behavior. So from my research and from creating a personal program which allows therapists to give their clients a hydration program, it's very clear that this is something now that's going to be very beneficial to helping clients with their overall wellness. And because hydration is a very complex area, even though we know the basics very well, but there's so many aspects to it. For example, say people that are overweight and even severely overweight is a significant consideration in terms of a hydration program, because they don't drink water based on their weight. Because if they did, it would be very unhealthy. They would be drinking way too much water, which could be harmful, especially for people with cardiovascular problems. And there's many other variables and different types of beverages and water intake, et cetera, that really are going to allow for a development of a wide variety of hydration programs that can be developed. There's not just going to be one program. There's going to be many different programs that will be offered in the future based on different approaches to hydration, but they will all be based on these fundamental principles of hydration, the importance of water in the human body, and the way the body naturally loses water every day. But my feeling is in the field of hydrotherapy, which is just using water in any form to promote wellness, that this is going to be a very positive, important area, and an area that we really haven't had well-developed programs to help our clients with, maintaining this very important area of optimal daily hydration. So that's been a general presentation. The idea it wasn't to make it too technical, but just to show there is an understanding from science and experience to show that we do have enough understanding now to develop programs for optimal daily hydration that also can be used by therapists to work directly with their clients to improve that aspect of health and wellness. So that ends the presentation for me at this point.
Okay, so I think we're going to open up the lines. If anyone has any questions at this time, you can either type them into the chat box, or I'll go ahead and unmute the lines. So there's an opportunity for that at this time.
The conference is now in talk mode.
Any questions?
All right. Well, if there's no questions, then we'll go ahead and just end the webinar. So I want to thank everyone for joining us, and thank you, Richard, for presenting the information. For more information on this webinar or any of our webinar series, you can visit our website, which is at www.milady.cengage.com. Thank you.